and a very nice angle to see someone, and she's doing it. After a long time, I have seen someone, it's a very nice.
Cool. So if you want to get started,
You sure?
sure.
Hey, hello everyone. My name is Rishi.
Hi
I'm part
guys,
of Week,
my name is
and
Varun.
Varun is a co-founder. He's here with us. We also have Samir. So we thought that we'll take you through a brief presentation and basically talking points around our experience of setting up farming collectives. So how we started and what are the different steps and elements that we came across, and how we solved some of them and learn from them. So you guys are pretty much fall into one of these categories probably, and been part of a lot of conversations on the WhatsApp group. So won't really take too much time here, but typically there's an increased interest among a lot of people to live sustainably, grow their own food and so on, and also set up collectives around shared ideas and goals. And of course various reasons for it, being people want to be away from the urban chaos and the associated issues with it, and as well as a lot of people don't really have the time, effort, or the know-how to do it on an individual basis. So looking at a group of people is a great idea. uh, just a bit about what some of us on this group have been doing. So so as a company started in 2017, set up the first farming collective, Tamarind Valley One, 90 kilometers from Bangalore, 50 members, and we've seen some great transformation and learnings, from a perspective of where we started and where we are right now. The coming together of a community, and learning and unlearning together, uh, transforming an extremely barren patch of land to something that is now well on its way to becoming a largely a sustainable permaculture farm. And uh, just about more than a year ago, started the Rose Valley Farming Collective on a kind of like a similar model, closer to Bangalore than the TVC. And this is right now in the process of people coming, looking at it, and are largely subscribed. We're looking at a last few people to become members of this. And along with all of this, we just launched a first collective up north called the Tijara Heritage Collective. This is in Alwar district, about 100 kilometers from central Delhi. And again, it's a similar model of a large sustainable farm, uh, with about 40 to 50 members. While doing all of these, a lot of people, said that they would like something which could be, closer to the city. So we just started a smaller community of 20 homes on Kanakpura Road, about 35, 40 kilometers from Bangalore, called the Maralwadi Hamlet. Just about a couple of weeks since we started talking about this, and talking to a few interested people. Uh, so we thought that we will largely spend more time on you know uh, the elements around setting up a farming collective, and the various points around that. So what do you want to start here?
Sure. Um, so I think we'll start with a little bit of little bit about our experience of building the Tamarind Valley Collective. So the idea basically came with few discussions over coffee with Mr. Samir Sisodia. Samir sir happens to be my college senior. We both come from same college, and he has been few years senior to me, and that's why you'll you'll always find that that I address him as Samir sir. So please excuse us on that. But nonetheless, so Samir sir has been very passionate about the farming part of it, while he was running Linger, and I'm also an ex-IT guy. Was in IT industry for a very long time, roughly 15 years, and then started a real estate company called Vivas Infinite Private Limited. And the idea was to do real estate in a slightly different way. In 2017, both Samir sir and I came together and we came up with this concept of sustainable living. And we thought that there'll be enough takers for it if we have a place which can, where people could live, completely off the land or off the soil. And with that, we defined a basic template of 1.5 acre of total land, and house was mandatory there. And then the idea was that over a period of time, people should be actually able to come and live there, right? And the idea was kind of shared with with bunch of folks, and very quickly we got around 20 people signed up, and then and then I think we kickstarted that. And since we're doing it for the first time, it was an interesting journey. We learned a lot of things on the way. We did fair amount of mistakes as well, but that was fun. But at the same time, the good thing is that now it's a fully subscribed community. The land is almost completely transferred to most of the folks except few, because of COVID and some of the delays. The housing approvals are also pretty much through. The last set of NOCs we got from Forest Department, and now the housing. All these NOCs come from Chennai, so it takes time. But now I think it's all local Hosur work. It'll be starting now. We have learned how to make bricks, how to do other stuff also. So I think why I gave you this this little bit of story, because now while doing this collective, we figured out that probably this picture will explain you that these are the necessary steps if we want to build a community either on our own or or with providing as a service, right? So so here is what we need to do. So imagine we want to do a collective, whether it is done by a bunch of folks like you or we run it as a company. The first and the foremost important thing is identify a location or a land, because people actually revolve around it. So all the community, all the design, all the specifications actually revolve around it. So typically what we do as a company, that we identify a location and a piece of land, and kind of figure out the pricing and stuff like that. And based on the pricing of the land and the other components like the farm infrastructure, the civil infrastructure, and all the other costs, then the housing costs, we work with Biome as of now. In future, you never know, we might have other partners as well, but Biome is our pan-India signed up partner for now. So we actually do a tentative pricing that this will be the kind of price, and then around that we start building the initial community, and that's the step number 2. So before we actually kickstart the process or put any kind of serious investment on the land, we actually try to build an initial boot community. And why we do this is because it's important that people who are actually going to become part of this community are really aligned on the idea of sustainable living. They actually understand, or they actually completely are signed up for this kind of a living. So that's why building initial community is very, very important. Next is legal scrutiny, due diligence, the land price negotiations. And then there's another important aspect which I think we have missed here is the local intelligence. So I think this is some bit where I would like to emphasize and draw everybody's attention, because this is probably one of the most critical bits of this entire puzzle. Acquiring hundreds of acres of land in different parts is a seriously tedious task. One thing is that you, of course, work with the best set of lawyers available and try to make sure that all the legal documents are in place. So what we do as the first step is that we always hire the best law firm available in this place. So right now we're working in Tamil Nadu. So Hosur, we have got one law firm where they are three-generation lawyers, and his name is Dr. Mr. Vidya Bhaskar, Advocate Vidya Bhaskar. You go to Hosur and just take his name. Everybody will know. He is actually impaneled on more than 20 banks. So that's how we make sure that we really, really are very, very careful when we start the legal scrutiny and due diligence, and we put kind of lot of emphasis on it. Next is that while the due diligence and legal scrutiny is very important, there is something called there's something called uh, you know um, uh, I don't know who's Suresh or Joe's whose mic is on. Would you please mind switching off the mic, please? The kid is yeah, Suresh, either Suresh or Joe. One of you guys' mic is open. Okay, sorry. So the thing is that um, next thing is that while we acquire the land, it is very important that we do there's something called we call it local intelligence. So we try to figure out working with local neighboring villagers and try to find out with local folks that there has not been any other problem also. And before we do anything else, we try to take possession of the land also, try to figure out. So it's a very unstructured process, the due diligence process, which ensures that there has not been any previous history of oral transaction or anything like that. And before we actually register the land, we make sure that we actually take possession of the land, put our some kind of work starts happening there good at least 15-20 days, 1 month in advance, so that if there is any kind of issues with the land, we come to know about it. And my other co-founder Yatish, who's not here around today, but he has had experience of acquiring roughly 120 acres of land for himself. And then we have acquired completely the Tamarind Valley Collective, and we are almost done with the Rose Valley Collective as well. uh, and then the Marlwadi hamlet also is more or less acquired property, though it is with single owner, but still done. Same way we have got 120 bighas of land. Actually, in north, instead of acres, there is a concept of bighas as well. So that land also, and right now we are in process of using all the learnings of execution of Tamarind Valley Collective and Rose Valley Collective, and we want to implement that to set up a mechanism, or set up a methodology or a mechanism, a process for land acquisition in Delhi as well, or the NCR region. So I think there's one very, very complex piece of the puzzle. The next thing is, once you have acquired the land, you will always find that somewhere some boundary issues might arise, or somewhere some old transactions, stuff like that. So you need to have a team. You need to have a bunch of folks who really understand the land, who have done these things over a period of time, and who know how to resolve these kind of conflicts, as and when they arise. So I think it's an important bit, and that's why I wanted everybody's attention here. The next thing is that once you have identified the land, and legal scrutiny, other things are over, next is the layout and survey and design of the place. It's important that you actually do a good survey of the place, understand the topography, how exactly water channels have been over the place. So, and that's where working with Biome has been extremely delightful experience. Those guys have humongous experience, and they really know their stuff. And they have been a fantastic partner. Of course, they have been pain in the neck at times, but that's a part of the game. We sat with them, multiple meetings, and when we were designing TVC, it took a lot of time, because neither they knew this scale of a project, nor did we know. But of course, we have come up with a much solid philosophy now, and a set of processes which we follow. And our next collective, so first time when we did survey, actually we had to do the survey of land 3 times, because every time we did a digital survey, there's something called government survey. So we do first a government survey, where the government surveyors come, put the boundaries, fix, and go. And they have a very structured process, and that works exactly the same way. By the way, you'll never find any measurement issues or stuff like that when government surveyors do the job. But when after that we do, there's something called digital survey, which is more like 3-dimensional and multi-dimensional. um, whereas government surveys are mostly 2D surveys. They come with a field map book, FMBs, and then they just measure the land and go. Whereas when we do digital surveys, we take the topography, we mark how many trees are there, and what kind of vegetation is there at the place, and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's the one. When we were doing TVC, we didn't get it right in the first attempt. Then we tried again, second time. Still, Biome was not happy. They asked, no, this information is missing, that information is missing. So, and in the third round, we could close it. Whereas in Rose Valley, we since we had learned all the stuff, we could do it in one go, and it just took 15 days. Whereas in TVC, it took us 3 months to just do the survey of the land. After that, even the architects didn't have an idea as to how exactly should we plan. So, cutting the plots, how should we do multiple survey numbers? The land has got survey numbers. So, if there is a piece of 1.25 acres which has to go to somebody, then it could be one survey number or two survey numbers. How do you cut? How do you set boundaries and stuff like that? So that's also a cumbersome process which we didn't know, and we have learned a fair bit, and we're still learning, right? And then architects basically start designing that where should they put their clustered homes, where should they put their the staff quarters, the kitchen, the community area, the mud houses and stuff like that. So, and I hope some of you have actually visited Tamarind Valley. You must, if in case you have not, then you please certainly go and visit the place. And the next stuff is sourcing and procurement of different kind of material for civil work, for farm work and stuff like that. Now the next bit is the farm infra, where I think Samir sir has been a great learner of this. I really don't have much experience of this, but still I can tell you that we have worked with some of the teams like Ananas and of course majorly with Ananas, where they actually gave us a blueprint of permaculture, and then implementation was mostly done by Samir sir. Of course, I assisted him initially for a fair bit. We'll show you some designs, and we can discuss a little bit more in detail when we do that. Then the next thing is that integration of dairy, poultry, and other things is very important, just to make sure that the whole ecology of the place develops. Whereas in Tamarind Valley, we didn't decide all these things upfront, but our learning says that if you have a dairy, then of course the Jivamrita and the compost and so many other things related to that, and a poultry setup, actually all these things actually build the whole ecosystem, and it's a good idea to do everything right from the beginning, whereas in TVC we have done it slightly later. Then I think next stuff is that you start doing the infra planning and execution. So infra planning is in the sense like any place like this, as Samir sir always says, that harvest water. I mean, that's the first philosophy of permaculture, that first you should harvest water. So the idea is that try to make as many check dams, swales and stuff like that, and so that the water which typically runs away is kind of contained to the extent possible. And that's where some experience of Biome and some other consultants also independently we have taken their help, and we've done a good job in TVC. And the result of that you can see. We'll probably share a picture if it is not. I'm sure Rishi will share at the end of the conversation a picture which just shows that in 3 years how exactly the whole place has turned around. And then of course I was talking about the earthworks, lakes, ponds, wells, check dams, and all. That's very important. Initially, good thing is that the community and us were very clear that we have to make sure that we invest a fair amount of money, and we do a lot of hard work with earthworks, and the result of that we are seeing now. Now the next stuff is also an interesting bit where I have taken lead most of the time. So basically, licensing and figuring out that start working with village panchayats and district authorities, the revenue department people, the surveyors, the village accountants, and stuff like that. That's been the real tough nut to crack. But I think we have a good handle now. A new place when we started Rose Valley, it has been a lot easier than what it was with TVC, because we just didn't know a lot of things. So now we go to any other place, we exactly know that who are the guys who will actually be doing the job, and for which work you should go to whom. So that's one learning which takes time, and building TVC we have learned it the real hard way, but now we know a fair bit. Then I think this is another very important aspect of a place like this, that though we are trying to set up a community of our own, where all of us are very aligned, and we have our goals, shared goals, and want to live together and do some good stuff. But mind you, we all are getting into a place which is surrounded by so many other communities. The village community, the community of folks who might be managing the temple, and other sets of people. And it's important that, and by the way, what happens that whenever people like us who go in, all these, big cars, and though our intent is very, very nice, that, we want to learn farming and we want to go and rejuvenate the place and do all the nice things, but a typical attire and appearance actually is very intimidating for an average villager. So what happens that they invariably, are very intimidated, and it's important that we actually work with them. And my other co-founder Yatish, since he has acquired fair bit of land for himself on his own, he knew all these things, so he was very forthcoming, and he said that no, we must go and work with the village panchayat guys. If they have a temple festival, we must go and participate. And in TVC, around TVC, there's a village called Tagati. So there they have their processions during Dashara. So we participated there. There is a local temple, Chikkamma Dodamma temple. So we went there, and we actually, some of the villagers said that you must sponsor one of the events there, and it's a good thing, that, and we did that. We followed all the advice of all these guys, and trust me. Now and then what happened, that a lot of villagers got some work with us, because we needed a lot of temp staff to rejuvenate the place, and initially we pumped in a lot of money there. So so I think by doing all these things, we are now, the villagers and us are in pretty much harmony. And at least the staff which is living there right now is pretty much all set. So those guys come, and we go and all. Now I think, but still there is a challenge when 50 families settle down there after the houses are done in a year's time. Then I think we will have certainly, one more round of, there could be some frictions here there which we'll figure out, and we will learn few things from them, and they will learn few things from us, and then as humans we know how to live in a community, and then we will overcome that as well. So okay, sorry. Yes. So I think there's another aspect which we added later, which has not been the key focus of Tamarind Valley Collective while we built it. But while doing Rose Valley Collective, we thought there's no harm in thinking about long-term revenues as well. I mean, if a place which by default has got all the goodness of a community, of a sustained place, of a place where the food is pure, where the water is pure, where the air is pristine. Along with that, if this place can give us some kind of some kind of some kind of revenues as well, which not only just sustain the place, but which could give us something as well, then there's nothing wrong in that. And that's why we tried to bring in a little bit of agroforestry, where some grafted trees and some tissue culture teak trees and all also we have added. But the soul of the place is that you will always use natural things. You will always go a multi-layer cropping you'll do, like permaculture. So none of those learnings we are compromising. But instead of using just the very native species trees, there's no harm in trying a grafted tree, right? Because the grafted tree will probably give a little bit more yield, uh, whereas you give the same compost, whereas you give the same jivamrita, and you give the same kind of stuff, right? I think we just tweaked it a little bit, and Rose Valley Collective model will probably give you a little bit more idea about it. And the next thing is that route to the market and cooperative setup and stuff like that. So basically what happens that in Tamarind Valley, that stage we are, where we have become more like a facilitators, and the community has taken over the process of building a farmer producer company there, and everybody becomes a part of it, and then whatever produce comes, that is actually sold to the market, and then whatever return comes, that's used by everybody. So I think that's one more thing. And then I think a couple of things I would still like to touch base is the community building process. So I think what we did was, in our minds, both in Samir sir's mind and my mind, it was very clear that we want community to engage in this entire process, in this entire life cycle. So wherever they could contribute, we always ask them to pitch in, and our Tamarind Valley community has been very forthcoming, and has been very participant. Of course, not everybody will do. Hardly 10, 20%, 25% people will participate. and another 25% will pitch in, and at times they'll pitch in and again they'll be off for some time. But what the good thing was that how exactly this whole place will run, or how exactly this whole place will evolve over a period of time, was completely designed, or written down. The clauses of the community rules or community guidelines were completely written by the community members. None of those actually came from us, or any kind of rules were set by us. We got everybody in a room and we requested them that, guys, this is your place. How would you like to? How would you like this place to be running? 5, 10 years down the line. And then some of them took lead. We also, of course, we gave some ideas. And in this process, it was decided that the community kitchen we have got will be a vegetarian kitchen. Of course, there was some debate, but finally everybody decided. Then our in TVC, our external area was made liquor free. So if you want to booze, you can booze inside your home, but not in public place and not in the outside place. And that's what was decided by the community, because the community, this whole place belongs to the community, and that's how it will be. So I think we have been more like facilitators of this whole thing, and we want and we allowed DIY, not allowed. Allowed is not the right word. I mean, we actually were facilitators, and we worked with the community to make sure that uh, as much of do it yourself could happen as possible. But at the same time, a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of um, uh, you know a lot of the stuff which we have learned was kind of given, and the place was brought up. So I think this is more or less I think we have here to talk. And the basic purpose of showing you this slide was to make sure that you guys understand as to what is the complexity uh, uh, of building a place like this. These steps will give you some bit of an idea. Rishi, would you just move to the next one, please? Cool. I don't know that it is not that clear to me, at least. I don't know if you guys can see, but this is how the land looks like. The blue portion, all the blue lines you see, these are all water channels all over the property. So wherever there are thin lines, there are smaller channels. Wherever the big blues, those are all water channels and the water collection points. So after doing the topological survey, or digital survey, we got these places identified. All the red ones are Rishi back. Sorry. So all the red ones are mostly the Porombog land or extra land, which we got. And then I think the white ones you see are all the farm land or patta land, which we have cut into multiple pieces. The numbers are not very visible. If some of you want to get an access to this better copy of this, we'll be happy to share that, post this presentation. And then this yellow thing, do you see the yellow thing here and slightly red thing with housing kind of marks at the top? Those are the cluster areas which are identified for the housing. So all the houses will be spread over these two places, and the farmland is spread all around. So I think this map looks very nice, but trust me, it took us more than a year to finally zero down everything. So we got, though we started mid of 2017, but we could finally get our final map by end of 2018, or more towards the later half of 2018. So this map has got a lot of learning. Trust me on that. Next one, Rishi. Yeah. So Rishi or Samir sir, I mean, or anybody, I mean, Rishi, want to talk about it? Rishi.
Okay. So this is actually a permaculture zone map prepared by our permaculture consultants for the Tamarind Valley, wherein this is after spending a lot of time on the ground. They came up with this with this very extremely colorful and complex map that we see here, which involves data on rainfall over the years, where does the sun rise, where does it set in different seasons, what's the wind direction, uh, what's the topography, gravitation, higher ground, low ground, riparian places, and so on and so forth. And then you typically after looking at all those elements, you design different elements of where to grow what, how do you what stages you work on in the land, where do you start, where the food forest could be, and so on and so forth. So we'll be happy to kind of share this if anybody is interested. But just wanted to give you a flavor of what typically a large farm could involve in different stages, if you're looking at all these elements that we just talked about.
And I mean, initially we started working with Ananas, so they came with a very systematic plan as to how exactly which portion will be with what kind of plantation, where exactly our forest zones will be, where exactly our riparian zones are, where exactly our food forests will be, and all the stuff. And these learnings are pretty much available, and these are the systematic plans which will help if you want to do it yourself as well. Next slide, Rishi. Cool. So I think these are sample designs provided by Biome. And actually, what we did was, what was done was that we got the entire community. We requested Biome to, meet. By the way, generally architects meet with, 2, 3, 4 people. They were really skeptical about meeting, 20, 30, 40 people in one room. But we told them that, don't worry, it'll be fairly harmonious place. And I think at the end of the meeting, everybody was very happy, very thrilled. So you can see this picture on the right. You see all these members were there, and then Biome actually presented their whole plan, and everybody gave their inputs. And based on all their inputs, I think the first iteration came. After that, one more round of inputs were given. I think that was mostly offline. And then I think Biome gave all these designs, and people picked their house designs. By the way, what we have offered one more time is that when the approvals are in place, if people have got their own certain changes to be done, if those are smaller changes, we internally work. I mean, some of the team members actually work with individual members and take those feedbacks and try to incorporate. If our engineering team can mostly understand and convince the members that everything is all right, that's great. If it is required that they need another round of interaction with Biome, that is also managed, and we assist. So try and understand that in a way, this is a platform where an individual gets an opportunity to get their house designed absolutely their own way, which is a very unique proposition as far as any kind of infra or real estate projects are there. So that's one thing which we have been very passionately driving towards. So you can see that the community has been engaged at every step. Rishi, the next one.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
I think that's pretty much it. Yes.
So
I think now I think we'll be happy to answer if you guys may have any questions. Or maybe Rishi, you might want to close the.
Yeah, I'll do this.
Yeah.
Can I grab a minute?
Oh yeah, please. All yours, boss. Yeah. All yours. Absolutely.
Rishi, can you go back to that roadmap that you created?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it's what's important is that everybody understand that it's so when people start buying land for farming or for whatever, actually they tend to think of it as an isolated activity, but it's just it's a longer game, right? You have to navigate through the whole set of steps, and like this actually lays out fairly well the kind of steps that anybody, whether buying an individual farm or creating a community like this or whatever, has to go through. Right? It could be some more steps, some less steps, but it roughly lays it out. So I think this is very, very useful. And if you guys can actually post this picture on your
Yeah, actually, in our wall, yeah, I mean,
on your Facebook feed or something, it'll help a lot of people, right? Like,
right.
right. And I think this is the one to really internalize, that it's not just about buying and registering land, but even the buying of the land has multiple steps. The starting work on it, figuring out.
I think we have to add few more things also, Samir boss. I mean, like the few things we did, like engagement of community in house dance and all. I think we have really not.
Yeah, it'll also vary depending on how it's done, who does it, whether
sure.
it's an individual farm, whether it's
Probably
a large farm.
we'll nudge this picture with few more
Yeah.
pictures, and then I think it'll be a lot more complete.
Yeah. But it's important to understand this, and also the costs associated with all of this. So typically, I mean, from the TVC experience and the experience at my own farm in Coor, the land cost is going to be a fraction of the whole thing. Could be a third, could be a fifth, could be, depends. Could be half, could be 10%.
Exactly. No, it depends. Right. Mostly it depends how far the place is, and it varies. Typically, after doing these 3 projects, I can tell you that it varies anywhere between 1/5 to 1/3. If it is like closer to the city, it becomes 1/3 of the price.
Yeah.
But as far as you go, it never goes below 1/5. So actually, the farther you go,
typical mistake people make is they actually spend all their budget on the land itself.
Exactly.
This is something I've seen. Whatever people plan to, so people say, oh, I could have had a 5-acre farm instead. But it's not a smart idea to have a 5-acre farm, because you won't have enthusiasm, money, space left to do anything else. Because
another thing, I think in our model, or the way we have been presenting this, we have made sure that the house is kind of a mandatory thing.
Yeah.
And actually, why we did that was we wanted to make sure that as for these kind of places, of course, the place and infra and everything is important. But imagine if people don't live in these kind of places, what's the fun of having these kind of places, right? So that is why I think initially I was coming from more from real estate background. So when Samir sir was insisting nahi ghar hona chahiye, I was not really sure of that. But trust me, now everywhere
it creates a commitment to the land that goes missing otherwise.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we have to understand that any such community like this, I mean, at least as a company, we have internalized this, that any place we build, a livability of members, short-term, long-term, is absolutely mandatory. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and honestly, all of these steps are they are doable by oneself for sure, and Varun and Rishi are presenting it from the community's point of view, and the role played by them or what Varun did for us at TVC, etc., is fairly useful, right? So because it is fairly intensive and time consuming, right? So I've seen people DIY as well. So there are people who move to the land and commit a lot of time to it, a few years in the setup phase, and pretty much then move there. But it is a time commitment. So you got to understand all these processes, understand the time, money, other commitments involved, and look at it holistically, not just from so many acres of land at so much per acre, because normally the conversation ends there. So just wanted to get that perspective. Thanks.
Thank you so much, boss. Yeah, I mean, more questions. We'll be happy to take some questions now.
Hi, this is Vishwa here.
Hi, Vishwa.
Now there are different. Let me take the example of Tamarind Valley. I think the unit was around an acre or 1.5 acre of was one unit, right?
Yes.
And now while we gather the community to decide to buy, say 51 people decided to buy, of course, there's a journey to it, right? Because not everybody may be ready to buy. You need to pull people, find people, but there may be willingness for maybe 1 or 2 people to take 2 units. Okay, it's not about coming from the point of view that I have money to invest, but what would a difference be made if a person takes 2 units and another person take only 1 unit? At the end of the day, it's just an acre against your name, but entire 100 acre is for all the community, entire community, right? Maybe you will get 2 units of houses. I mean, the house that is going to be built. That's the difference, right? Apart from that, do you see anything else?
Quite honestly, I did. So, I mean, if somebody has got a larger portion of land, how does it make a difference? That's what you're asking? Or, okay. No, it depends. Actually, TVC, while we were meeting members, there was there were quite a few people who came and there was like, can I buy 2 or 3 or 4 units? And there were a bunch of friends. Can we take 6 and 8 units and all? And then we realized that those guys probably want this whole place to be run, more like their own private place. So I think we were absolutely against the idea of having anybody bullying around the rest of the community. That's what we were worried about. But certainly not whether you have 1 unit or 2. By the way, we have not got one instance where one family has got 2 units. No, we don't have a case like that. Or initially, some of them asked who were not very sure about the idea that can 2 of us buy 1 unit, and I think we had allowed 1 or 2 people who eventually finally turned out to be one person only. So more land actually in Rose Valley Collective, what we did was we actually gave an option of a slightly larger parcel of land as well. So in TVC, everybody has got fixed 1.5 acres package, whereas in Rose Valley, we allowed a slightly bigger portion of land as well. So we have 3 options there: 1.5 acres, 2.5 acres, and 5 acres. By the way, 5 acre nobody has bought except one gentleman, but everybody has bought 1.5 and 2.5. So slightly larger means, let's say, if you have a slightly bigger family, like I have 3 kids, so I might probably need a slightly bigger home and a slightly bigger farmland. So, or there could be some people that, I want probably a slightly bigger house, or I want a slightly bigger place, and a house could be inside the farm plot. So with those kind of things, and we have tweaked our model in Rose Valley, we have allowed that actually.
Yeah, I get that house part of it. I
Yeah.
need a bigger house, but farm itself, you're not actually doing something on your own. Based on my understanding, what I had a call previously with Samir, this entire farm is community. There is nothing like, okay, this
Oh,
is
yes,
my
yes,
farm.
yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Now I get you. I'm sorry. I was just dwindling here and there. Now I get it. So I'll explain you. So basic thing is, when when you buy a unit, it's just not about that piece of land where what is happening, where whatever is happening belongs to you. No, though the land is yours legally and you own it clearly and identified, demarcated place, but when the farming happens, it happens as a collection. It happens as a collective. So everybody has got all the consumption and access right and consumption rights over entire land. So we generally advise people, we generally tell the members that, guys, please think that you are part of a 90-acre collective or 80-acre collective, and you have got a share of 2% or 1.5% or whatever, and whatever gets produced across the farm, you get a certain share of that. So I hope I answered the question now.
I got it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
One more question, if I can. All right. So inside Karnataka,
Yes.
of course, there has been talks about the policy changes of owning a farmland, even though you are not a farmer, and that's getting opened up, is what I heard. But otherwise, is there any concern in this area and legality point of view?
No, actually, Karnataka, our last collective, that the Maralwadi hamlet is in Karnataka, and we have already figured out the legalities of that, and we are doing that already. We have got out of the first 5, the 8 people are needed to start the project. We've already got some 3-4 serious guys who are about to say yes. 2 of them have already said yes, another 2-3 will say yes, and then we'll get started. And Karnataka, we've already started working. It's absolutely legal.
Okay. Thanks.
And Tamil Nadu, anyway, we have executed already 2 projects, so nothing to worry.
Right.
So Karnataka and Tamil Nadu both are sorted out legally. and we know how to execute it there.
All right. Thanks, Varun.
Yeah, thank you. Sure. Yeah. Anybody else? Nobody seems to have any questions.
So, okay. If nobody has, I have one more, Varun. Sorry.
Yeah, please
All
go
right.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
See, where does it get started? I mean, this chart was pretty useful. Okay, I did a recent visit to the one in near Krishnagiri as well. Okay,
Yeah.
so at least what I know is I think your your property, right, Varun? Was
Which
that?
one? The Rose Valley Collective?
No, the Krishnagiri near one. Vinay, sorry.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, suppose there is some lead that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, somebody is selling a land which is pretty big, and
Mm-hmm.
there are people actually already in this group. I have around 3 people known already part of this group who is looking
Mm-hmm.
forward for this to get started.
Mm-hmm.
But things are running in our mind that there is a property probably somewhere inside Karnataka, and we've heard about it. Where
Mm-hmm.
does it start? Is it something like we come to you, look, there is a property here, and I have a people of probably 5 people interested,
Mm-hmm.
and is that how we come to V community, or or it's the
I
other
mean,
way around? Because you
I'll
have
explain.
roadmap already on the. If I see your website, there is a roadmap. This TLC, I mean, Tamarind Valley is over and Rose Valley is over. Next ABCD, you already have a roadmap.
Mm-hmm. So
So I was just
I'll
wondering.
explain. I'll explain. I'll explain. So basically, how we work is we never ever start a project. So this is very specific to Wikimedia, and I'll take a couple of minutes to explain. So basically, what we do is we typically see the land. But let's say a bunch of you have already seen the land. It doesn't. So it's great. There's no problem. I mean, you have saved some time for us. Now imagine, so once the land is there, and we need, certainly I call that a bootstrap group. So let's say for Tamarind Valley, when we started, we needed at least 20 signups before we could kickstart the project. And we knew that we'll be anywhere between 40 to 50 people. And finally, we landed up with 51 folks. But we wanted 20 people to say yes and ready with the check until we start the project. So keeping the same logic, if there is a parcel of land, whether you have identified or we have identified, doesn't matter. The steps we have already defined, right? And those are the steps which whether you do it yourself or we do, the same set of steps have to be crossed, right? So to execute those steps, the community of course has to, and anything starts only once the land and the community is there. Until both these things are there, we don't start the project. Just land is there, community is not there, project doesn't get started. Just community is there and land is not there, still doesn't. When we kickstart any project, we first get the land and then we work on the community. Let's say you guys have both the options. You guys have already got a land, and few of you will be happy to pitch in and work with you and help you with this entire process. And as and when, wherever it is whatever information is needed, we'll work with you. We'll be very happy to assist you guys get a new community started. Absolutely.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah, hi Varun, can we know more about the Tijara project?
Oh, cool. So Meenam, which part of India you are from?
I live in Bhiwadi, which is very close by
Achha.
to
So
Tijara.
Tijara, I'm sure you would have seen the Tijara fort. I'm sure you know Tijara
Yes,
fort.
I have been there.
Cool.
Yes,
Oh, very nice.
yes.
So actually, Tijara, we have a land partner and we have got 120 bighas there. We have already, because of COVID and all, and we were avoiding travel. I guess for whole of January, we will avoid traveling to Delhi because, the family pressure and the others, they don't want me to travel. I would have started traveling by now, but I guess another month I'm not allowed to go out. But right now, what we are going to do is we are look. So we know the land prices there. We have locked the land prices. Those have not inflated in the last 1 year, and then we have put all our other, budgetary things and come up with a price. We are happy to share the brochure and other details, the pricing details, the strategy and other things. We have already got a WhatsApp group also, where a bunch of folks who have shown interest in Tijara Heritage Collective are already there. Some of them have actually gone and seen the place as well. We are waiting for 20 folks to start. It's a 54 member community as of now. We want 20 people to say yes, and then we'll get started. I guess we have got 5-6 serious contenders, serious people who have said yes. And of course, we haven't finished all the process of them saying yes. But we are going to start a campaign now centered around Delhi, and then we will get more people signed up. The day 20 people are there, we are off the ground and we get started.
So where can I get this brochure?
Okay, cool. Would you mind just sharing your link to V Community's WhatsApp group? Okay, so I think Rishi has already shared. You may, and here is my number. I'm just typing it here.
All right.
This is my number, and Rishi, would you mind just sharing your number? And you guys can write us at this email ID as well.
In the month of March, I met your partner, your Delhi partner, Gurgaon. Actually, I personally met him regarding this project.
Which
then
partner?
after,
Which partner?
I've forgotten his name. There's one person who was with you. There's somebody in Gurgaon who's with you as a partner. He's your friend.
Ginny.
I actually forgotten his name. In March, I met him. He talked about this, that there are two options, either in Tijara or we are doing it in Neemrana. And he explained the whole project to me, and I was quite interested.
Achha. So I think there was one gentleman named Ginny Zanders who was working with us earlier, but now he has decided to, pursue other interest. By the way, Tijara Heritage Collective is fully sorted out. It means, for execution of a project, I told you the steps. So the land, the legality, everything we have sorted out. If you guys want to go and see the place also, you can go and see the place. I have my land partner. I mean, there's one gentleman named JP Yadav who manages all the land for us. So you can go see the place. I can add you to the WhatsApp group. Bunch of folks are there who are from Delhi, who have done interaction, and we'll encourage all of you to talk to each other, because it's important that the community which eventually is going to live at these places talk to each other and they know each other. And that's very important. So we'll be happy to do that as well, all of you, and we'll be happy to do a Zoom call if there is a larger group to explain the model one more time for people in Delhi. And I'll start traveling by end of Jan, early Feb, and that is why we are holding our promotions, because when people come, or any kind of marketing, our marketing is bare minimum, but still we are not doing any kind of active marketing there. But then we'll meet many people, and I'm very sure just one quarter will be off the ground.
There will be many people in Bhiwadi itself, because I'm living in the Ashiana project, you see, and a lot of.
I've heard about it. Yes, I've heard about it. Yes. No, I mean, I'm very sure. My gut feel says that getting 20 people signed up for Tijara in 3 months is not a big deal at all. Absolutely not. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, Varun, and good evening, guys. Thank you for this session. This is Bhaskar here from Hyderabad.
Hey, hi, Bhaskar.
Hi, I have a quick question on the digital survey you have done. Did you take any third parties' help, or how did it?
Of course, there are professionals who do these surveys. There's not an in-house thing. But of course, once we give the drawings, our engineering team spends a lot of time figuring out as to how to cut the plots, how to make roads, and Biome has been a great support, because so Biome and our team has figured out certain things, and that is something which we have learned. And honestly, I also don't know. My civil engineering team can assist you with that if you need some specific.
Because maybe I'll get in touch with them. You said it takes 2 days for the government guys to do the survey. That's like 2D.
Not really. Actually, not really. It all depends on how quickly. There's something called survey reference stones, which will be there across any place you go. So if you could get a reference survey stone, you'll quickly do it. If you don't have it. And then a government survey means you have to get all the people involved, all the neighboring guys. So let's say your plot is 554/3 and 554/9. You have to make sure that everybody around those survey numbers are notified and they are there when your survey happens. So because of that, it takes time, and that's something which we manage.
But that's more like 2D and not like the digital.
Government survey is always 2D. I'm sorry. Government survey is always 2D. irrespective of the terrain you have. But digital survey is the real stuff where you, and on top of that only we build our permaculture plan or agroforestry plan, where exactly we do our swales, where exactly we do our, lakes, water bodies or roads, where can we do houses. That is a very typical affair which the architects on our team sit and do.
So that's not very expensive. I mean, our time consuming, right? Digital survey can be done quite easily. Or...
Digital survey is actually very time consuming. It takes 15 days. I told you, means actually it takes 15 days of regular daily time. Government survey gets finished in 2 days. Digital survey takes time, and it depends. Very, very. I mean, for a 100-acre farm, it could be, if you are lucky, you could finish it in 2 weeks. If you are, if there are too many bushes, this, that, and all, it could go. I mean, like first time we took 3 months. So imagine 3 months to 15 days. That's what we have progressed in.
So they do it with the right scale to actually plant something on the ground, right? I mean,
yes, and I think my team will be able to answer that better.
Okay, thank you so much.
Connect us. No, please connect us offline. I will be very happy to give you right guidance, and I'll be happy to connect our engineer.
I'll drop you an email because it's
please do that. Please do that. We'll be very happy to help you on that. No worries at all. Always
thank you so
share
much.
The learnings. Absolutely pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello. Hi, Varun.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi, Suresh. Yes, Suresh, we can hear you. Suresh, you got muted, I think. Suresh, unmute yourself. Okay. Suresh, looks like you're speaking, but your mic is muted.
Varun, can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you, Suresh. Yes, please.
Yeah, hi, Varun. I just wanted to know what is the status of the Rose Valley Collective, means how many members has it, is it complete, or there are vacancies? What is the status?
We do have vacancies. So actually, we have got more than half the inventory sold. So sold in the sense we take sign-ups. We take little amount and take sign-ups. That has been going on for more than a year because of COVID. It all got delayed. But now we are starting the registrations starting next month, and starting the road work and some other work. We had done some works, made some lakes and some roads last time, but I think almost 1 year of COVID, washed away a lot of things. But finally, we are restarting, and within a quarter, a lot of activity will happen there, including registrations and all. And we do have open slots there.
Okay. And we communities, is it just to get the initial members together, or do you all retain some stake or share going forward? What is your role in this?
My role is of V community. I'm part of V community. So V community
No,
actually.
I was saying V community's role. Yeah.
So V community is basically helps execute this entire plan. I mean, as we explained you, we have done a couple of collectives end to end, and we have lined up another 2. So 2 are one is like almost done, just the housing bit is left. The other one is like half done, and the other 2 are like just starting. So we are happy to be there permanently. In Rose Valley, what we have done is we are going to commit ourselves to manage the place on revenue share basis for 25 years, right? So depending on what kind of community evolves, we take this call whether we want to engage long term, or we want to engage only for 10 years, we want to engage for 25 years. We see, and I think these are very specific to the kind of situation we land up with. But typically, when we start from scratch, we always commit ourselves for 20-25 years.
Thank you.
Thanks, Suresh.
Hi, Varun.
Hi, Benny.
Varun, I have a question.
Please.
To be a part of the V community projects or to invest in any of the projects, does one need to have the farmer's certificate?
No, earlier that restriction was there for Karnataka, and that's the reason we were not working in Karnataka. Now, the three geographies we are working, 3 states we are working on, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Haryana, Rajasthan. You don't need any special privileges. Any Indian with a valid ID and address proof and PAN card can buy and become a member of our collectives.
Okay. Thank you for the very informative session.
Thank you, Benny.
We were actually interested in projects near Mumbai. If you have anything, or if there is anything which a community is already trying to execute, we would love to have some more information.
Sure. So community, I'll give you a little heads up, which we did almost 2 years back. Actually, Mumbai, we cannot do. I think Mumbai has restriction of farmers and other kind of things. But good thing about Mumbai is that there is a way. There is a way we could do a cooperative and sell equity to people. So imagine we have to do a project. I'm just giving this information just off the because this will make you thinking that let's say there is a 50-member community, then 100 acre could be acquired as part of a cooperative. And then every member joins can be given 2% equity or 1% equity, depending on how big the community is. So though people cannot buy without farmer certificate, but as cooperative they can become a member and still leverage the place, and it can be done. We intend to start a collective between Mumbai and Pune, off the Mumbai-Pune highway, certainly far beyond, far away from the highway at some point. But for that we'll need 20 people. And while we are working on all the Karnataka, Tamil Nadu projects and the North India projects, NCR region project, next in line will be Goa, because we have a lot of inquiries for Goa. So Goa is certainly on the radar. I mean, a couple of hours back, Rishi and I were in a call with somebody who's having some land in Goa. So we're looking at that. But absolutely, as a company, we're very excited if there is opportunity for us between Mumbai and Goa, Mumbai and Pune, somewhere. So we would love to do that. I have traveled in that area once, and beautiful place. Would love to do that. And legally, it is possible without farmer certificate. That's what I wanted to tell you.
Okay. Thank you. So basically to be updated, one has to go through your website.
No,
just for
you could. No. Just join our WhatsApp group where only our project related information is given. No forward, nothing is discussed there. So rest assured on that. It's a very regulated group in the sense like all other discussions, every discussion related to sustainability and this kind of discussion. No random discussion happens there. Please join it. We'll keep updating you about all the collectives we are doing. And if you are too keen, talk to more people who are like-minded, try to figure out, become an anchor, try to mobilize a community like that, and there will always be an advantage to that. Not in terms of money, but certainly in terms of leading a community like that. You'll always have a bigger a bigger role to play to farm a community and stuff like that. So please we have, I think, Rishi, if I'm not wrong, we have a group for Pune, if I'm not wrong. We have a group for Pune.
That's right. But,
yeah, I am a part of that group as well. Just wanted to know if there is any projects that are lined up.
20 folks, and we'll get going, ma'am. We are contractors for 20 people. So find 20 people and we'll get going.
Super. I have a couple of them in my mind.
In fact, more.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Varun.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Benny. Yeah.
Okay, if there are no more questions, then we'll close for this session. Any questions? All right, thanks everyone. We hope to do this again sometime soon. Thanks for your time, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Bye.